viewers. Now today let's proceed with this topic known as livestock production, and we are going to talk about poultry. Last time we discussed about poultry, but some students had requested that we do a recap of the same. Now this is the first topic in Form 4 agriculture, and it deals with egg hatching of an egg, rearing of chicks, system and management of rearing chicken or poultry. It also deals with vices and the stress in poultry, together with marketing of poultry products. You need to understand it is the part of an egg. An egg consists of the shell membrane, the chalaza, the egg white, which is the albumen, the yolk, the air space, and the germinal disc. Now you can see in this part we have the structure of an egg. As a student, it is good for you when you are listening to the voice, you also make a drawing of the same. So make a drawing of an egg, then make sure you indicate the germinal disc. The germinal disc, it is that black inner part that is found in the egg yolk. Now, for you to understand also, it is good to check if back at home you have an egg, you can boil that egg so that you can have a cross-section of the egg, then you'll be in a position to understand what you are discussing. Let's see the function of part of the egg. Now, the first part is the egg shell. The egg shell is made of calcium and phosphorus, and the main function of the egg shell is to provide protection to the inner content. It is also porous, meaning it allows for gaseous exchange. The last one, it gives the egg its shape. The shape of the egg is oval in shape. So what makes it to be oval in shape? It is the egg shell. The second part, the shell membrane. The shell membrane forms 1% of the egg, and it's very unique because you can't see the shell membrane before you break the shell. So the work of the shell membrane, it forms an inner lining of the shell. Immediately after the shell, you enter into the shell membrane, which is a membrane. Membrane means it is membranous. It is just a thin layer. That's why it forms 1%. Now, also, we have another part known as the albumen. The albumen, which is the egg white. That is the largest part of the egg. And when somebody tells you, I'm eating an egg, majorly this person is eating the albumen. So the main function of the albumen, it serves as food reserve for the developing chick. When a chick is growing, it requires nutrients, and this nutrient, the chick gets it from the albumen. Then the albumen is divided into 4 major parts. It has the thin albumen, the thick albumen, and the outer thin albumen. On page 3, in our course book, you need to make also that drawing and also have the diagram in your exercise book so that you can see the part of the albumen. Now, between the albumen and the shell membrane, we have an air space. And that air space is created by the membrane and the albumen. And the air space allows for gaseous exchange. Another is the chalaza. The work of the chalaza is to hold the yolk in position. A chalaza is just like a strand. A strand is like a rope. So it holds the yolk in position because inside the yolk, we said it contains the germinal disc. And for us to know what is germinal disc, it is the one that you always observe when you want to check if the egg is fertilized or not fertilized. At home, the old mama and the shosho call it mayai ya jogoo, ingine sio ya jogoo. So you need to understand a fertilized egg is an egg that was formed after fertilization took place. And the unfertilized egg is that egg that was formed without fertilization. So we can't use unfertilized egg for hatching. We only use fertilized egg. And for us to find which is fertilized egg, we check the one that is having germinal disc. And for us to see where is the germinal disc, we see an egg against the strong source of light. The second part is not the yolk. The yolk contains 33%, and the function of the yolk, it contains food for the developing embryo. And this food is rich in vitamin, fats, minerals, and protein. So in this case, when an egg is fertilized and it's being hatched, the embryo will start developing. Then after the development of the embryo turns into a chick. So the work of the yolk is to give nutrients for developing. Now, after knowing this, we need to understand, how does a chick develop? How does an embryo develop? It develops through the process known as incubation. Now, so what is incubation? Incubation, it is the embryonic development of a fertilized egg into a chick under correct condition. So we need to have a correct condition. That is why even back at home, a hen will lie on the eggs for 21 days. So those days that a hen takes to lie on the eggs, they're known as incubation period. So the incubation period for an egg takes 21 days. For other animals, we talk about the gestation period. So we can still understand and ask ourselves, what is the gestation period of a chick? It is 21 days. Now, before you incubate an egg, stand. Which egg are you supposed to use for incubation? Not all eggs are good to be incubated. We have specific eggs with qualities. So what are the 6 qualities of egg suitable for incubation? Number 1, the egg must be fertile. That egg must be fertile. And for us to know which egg is fertile, that egg must have a germinal disc. Number 2, it should be of medium size. Should not be lighter or heavier in weight. That's what we mean by medium size. At least it should be 55 to 60 grams. Then it should have a smooth shell, because if it doesn't have a smooth shell, turning of an egg becomes a problem. Or sometimes if it is rough, the pores are closed, so there's no gaseous exchange. Number 4, it should be oval in shape. The egg is oval in shape, but something unique with an egg is that the two ends they're not equal, because one end is larger than the other. The larger end contains the air space, while the smaller end doesn't have the air space. Should be free from any cracks in the shell. So a good egg to be incubated should be free from cracks. Should be clean to ensure that pores remain open. If the egg you want to use for incubation, you make sure must be clean. And don't start cleaning the egg. Don't wash the egg, because if you wash, you will block the air space, the air pores. So don't say this egg is dirty, let me wash it before I incubate. It won't work. They should not have any abnormalities. We have abnormalities of an egg like blood spots, meat spot, double yolk. Now, where does the blood spot come from? When a hen is laying an egg, maybe the vent is too small. That's why you find that the egg is containing some blood. Or sometimes the hen is sick, then you'll find the egg has some meat spot. Then also, the last one should be fresh. That is collected within a week. Don't keep eggs in your cabinet at home. Maybe your mom is telling you, keep those eggs we'll be using for hatching. If it stays more than 1 month, then the abnormalities might arise. Maybe the pores will close. Maybe the level of nutrients will go down. So it's good for that egg to be incubated. It should be fresh. Now, for us to know if there is any abnormalities in an egg, we carry out something called egg candling. So, what is an egg candling? The egg candling, it's a method of examining the internal condition of an egg for abnormalities by looking against strong light in a dark room. And that is in page 5. Page 5 of agriculture textbook from 4. You find that in page 5 there is somebody, an observer, looking at an egg against a strong source of light, which is the torch. And the torch is the torch is covered by a cardboard box. So if you can also take an egg, then you observe against the rays of the sun or any strong light. If you want to see a black spot in the middle, then you just realize that this egg is not fertilized. And the old shosho knows how to do this. You can still talk to your shosh, he'll tell you that angalia yai kwa jua utapata kama ni ya jogoo ama sio ya jogoo. Now, what are some of abnormalities, or what are some of the condition, or what are some of the status you'll observe during candling? The first one that you are going to observe, it is the size of the air space. The second one that you are going to see, it is whether the egg is fertilized or not. If it is fertilized, you are going to see a germinal disc which will appear black. Then whether the yolk has cracks or double. So you should also see whether the eggshell is broken. Those are some of the abnormalities. Whether the shell is porous, or whether the shell has hair, whether the yolk has blood spots. Those are some of the abnormalities that you are going to see. So for our students who is following the talk, if your teacher will come to class and also explain the same, but in this case you can make a drawing on page 5 about the egg candling. Now, after candling an egg, you need to understand that the next step is to incubate this egg at home. Which method do we use mostly? We use something known as natural. So we have two methods of incubation. We have the natural incubation method and the artificial incubation method. Now, what is natural incubation? Natural incubation method, it's a method where you allow a hen to sit on the egg. You allow a hen to sit on the egg for 21 days. Then after 21 days, you'll see chicks coming out of those eggs. And that is known as natural incubation. Now, before you give a hen the eggs, a hen must be broody. Broody, it should be in a position to start sitting on the eggs. It must have undergone the laying process first before it becomes broody. So, what are signs of broodiness? Utajua aje kuku imetoshea kulalia mayai? The first signs of broodiness is 1, the hen stops laying. You'll find that a hen will stop laying the eggs. Number 2, continuous staying of hen on the eggs or on the nest. A hen will lay an egg, then it will stay on that egg, it will lean on that egg, or it will lie on that egg for more than 1 hour. So that is another sign. Number 3, the hen produces aggressive sound when you approach the nest. And some of you know that sound. So you can still, if you have your sibling there, you can still make that sound when a hen, or the sound that a hen produces when it wants to starts hatching eggs. Then another factor that you'll see, the hen plugs off the feathers to use in the incubation nest. You find that the hen will start plucking off the feathers. When the hen starts plucking off the feathers, it is now creating another comfortable environment, that warm environment, meaning the hen is ready to sit for the eggs. Now, what are you supposed to do? Number one, you need to make sure that you prepare the hen for incubation. For natural incubation, number one, the nesting box should be provided with a broody hen. You take the nesting box, then take the broody hen. Then the nesting box should be spacious. What is a nesting box? A nesting box is that box that the hen uses for laying eggs. So that's a nesting box. So it should be spacious enough. Then this nesting box, sometimes at home we use the debes, we can use carton boxes, we can use the karai, we can use wooden boxes. Wengine tunaweka hata kwa kona na tunachukua manguo tunaweka hapa alafu kuku inalalia mayai. So it's good for you to understand how to make a nesting box. And this is done so that to allow the conducive environment. Now, another thing you should also know is that nesting box should be dry and well ventilated. Because if it's not well ventilated, it might lead to other infection. Now on page 6, you can see the hen is in the box. So you can also make that diagram where the hen is in the box. Now you need to know the management practices during the natural incubation. Number one, you need to supply the beddings to the nesting box. Number two, you need to protect the hen from external parasites. External parasites like the lice, they will always be there. So for us to be on a safer side, we need to protect our hen from external parasites by dusting. We don't spray hen with dust. Spraying is for other animals like the cows, dogs, sheep, goats. But for hen, we carry out something known as dusting. Then, let's see, what are the advantages of natural incubation? Advantages number one, it's less laborious. In this way, there is no turning of the eggs. This is done by the hen itself. So you don't need to be turning the egg, or turn 45, another 45. The hen does that work. But two, little skills is required. So there's no need for you to worry about the skills required when you are carrying out natural incubation. Number three, the margin risk is reduced where eggs will not be hatched. So the risks are reduced. Then it's economical to small-scale farmers who cannot afford artificial incubator. What are the disadvantages? Only few chicks can be hatched at a time. You understand that you can only give a broody hen 10 to 15 eggs. So if you are giving it 10 to 15 eggs, it means only 10 chicks will be hatched. Compared to an incubator, artificial incubator, where you can hatch even 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 at once. One cannot plan when to incubate. You can't plan. You cannot plan for the hen when it's supposed to be laying on the eggs, because it must show the signs of broodiness. Diseases and parasites spread to chicks after hatching if the hen was infected. You can find out that some diseases and a parasite can be spread to chicks, like the lice can affect the chicks if the hen was infected by the diseases and the parasite. Hen can only be used when brooding. So you can't use another hen. You can only use a broody hen. And you have seen the signs or the characteristics of a broody. Let's talk about the artificial incubation. This is the second method of incubation after natural incubation. So the artificial incubation, it is the providing of all necessary conditions for hatching eggs for hatching eggs. So if you provide the necessary condition for hatching eggs, that is known as artificial incubation. And in page 7, you can see an incubator. An incubator, it has some chambers. It has the first top chamber known as the hatching chamber. Then after the hatching chamber, we have the egg trays. In the egg trays, we have a thermometer. In my diagram, you can see the structure labeled E, which is the thermometer. And below the eggs, we have something known as warm water. The work of warm water is to distribute heat evenly. And the work of the temperature is to check the temperature of the incubator. Then below that, we have the air movement and we have source of heat. And in this source of heat, you can use an electrical bulb, you can use a kerosene burner or a gas burner to generate. You can also use a charcoal burner. And it doesn't require for us to be having electricity so that you can be using an artificial incubator. You can still use the normal incubator and you can provide the heat with a charcoal burner. Now, let's ask ourselves, what are some of the requirements necessary for artificial incubation? The first condition that is necessary there is the temperature. Temperature for artificial incubation must be maintained at 37.5 to 39.4. What will happen if the temperatures are low or when the temperatures are high? When the temperatures are low, you need to understand this will affect the development of the chick. And if the temperatures are also high, it will also affect the development of the chick. Now, when the temperatures are low or high, they will kill the embryo. So the embryo will not develop into a chick. That is what you need to understand. Condition number two, it is fresh air or ventilation. Ventilation facilitates gaseous exchange and it helps to control humidity. Humidity, it is that warmth that is in the incubator. And remember, oxygen is also necessary for the development of the embryo. So you need to have circulation, air circulation, or the so-called ventilation. Then, another condition necessary is relative humidity. Relative humidity should be at 60%. Because we have an effect when we are having low humidity or a high humidity. So when you have low humidity, it will cause embryo to lose moisture and the chick will die. So you need to understand the effect of low humidity. What happens when the humidity is high? When the humidity is high, it will lead to mushy development of chicks. So that is the effect. Now, we also have another condition known as egg turning. Turning of an egg should be automatic. Some of the incubators are automatic, some are manual. But the manual one is not commonly used nowadays. Nowadays, we do use the automatic. So, what is the main reason for egg turning? Egg turning is to avoid germinal disc sticking on the egg shell, which may cause embryonic mortality. The embryo might die if the germinal disc sticks on the egg shell. Wrong turning may result to breakage of blood vessel. Now, you need also to understand what are the advantages of artificial incubation. The advantages of artificial incubation: number one, many chicks can be hatched at a time. You can hatch even 1,000, 10,000, depending on the size of your incubator. Number two, it is possible to plan when to hatch the chicks because in this case you don't require a broody hen. So it is possible for us to hatch at any time, the time that you can plan. Under good management, parasites and diseases are not get transmitted to the chicks. So if you manage very well an incubator, there will be no transmission of parasite and diseases. Then incubator is always ready when required compared to a hen. You need to have a hen, not only a hen but a brooding hen. But in this case, an incubator is always there when you want it. Let's talk about the disadvantages of artificial incubation. What are the disadvantages? High risk is involved. It has a high risk involvement. Then number 2, it requires more skills than natural method. Number 3, it is more labor demanding. You find that more labor demanding mean you are supposed to check on the turning of the eggs, to check the temperature, to check the moisture content. That is when you say more labor demanding. But the incubation or artificial incubation, it's the best one. Incubator is expensive to buy, so it requires high capital. It requires high capital because it's very expensive. The cheapest one goes at 65,000. Maybe if you have a second hand, it goes to at 30 whatever thousand. So it's very expensive. Before you do this, you need to know. Before, after doing this, you are now able to supply your chicks. Now, you can still supply chicks, you can still sell the chicks to another person, but we have factors that to consider when sourcing chicks. Where are you supposed to source? Where are you supposed to source the chicks? First, you check on the reputation of the supplier. Now, what do we mean by saying reputation? If this supplier does he or she has a good reputation. Good reputation means the supplier has he been supplying good chicks. Number 2, time taken during the transit from hatchery to the farm. Don't order your chicks from Mombasa and you are at Kericho, you are at Western, you are at West Pokot. They'll be so tired. So you need to check on the local supplier. Then type of chicks available. Nowadays, we have very many breeds. We have the broilers, we have the Ken chick, we have the curry chick, we have the improved kienyeji, we have the rainbow. So check which one do you need. And also check the size and the sex of the chick. It's very difficult for us to determine the sex of the chick. So up to this moment, to the source of the chicks, next time we're going to talk about brooding. How are you going to brood these chicks? So for those who are following on YouTube, make sure you subscribe on that YouTube channel. You can still share with your fellow colleagues. You can still share with their students outside there who's also looking for such like online learning, online teaching. Don't be so stingy. Share that YouTube channel. Somebody and tell them to subscribe. My name is Teacher Sindika. Let's meet next time on brooding. God bless you.